Well, welcome to this very, very special show. It's been a hugely disruptive week for the Indian average investor. And we've had long queues outside of hospitals, outside of post offices, outside of banks. And a lot of questions that people have about how they're going to tide over the next couple of weeks and what the rules really mean for you and me as average citizens and average taxpayers, which is why we bring you this very special show. The idea is to answer as many questions as possible. And to help me answer these questions, Dhirendra Kumar, the CEO of Value Research, joins us in Delhi. In the studio with me, I have Vishal Kapoor, the CEO of IDFC Asset Management, who's been an investment expert and a guide for us here at ET Now for a very long time. And Pankaj Garyali with PC Garyali and Company is our tax expert today. Also in the studio, a lot of Indians with a lot of questions. I want to start off, Pankaj, with talking to you about the fact that people have gone out today in an attempt to exchange money. And we know that we can only exchange 4,000 rupees at a time with an ID, with a form. That doesn't leave us with a lot of money really in our hands to get through our daily expenses. What is your advice right now for average people who are struggling to get through the day?
Use other means of payment. You have credit cards, you have Paytms, you have whatnot. There are several options in making payments. See, I understand that there are difficulties, but every good thing doesn't come in so easily.
No, but to be fair, and let's be honest about this, not everybody in India has access to online payments or to debit cards. I mean, a lot of times we have found that it's the sabzi wala or the kirana guy who's struggling over the last 2 days because he's not able to do business. And it's people like people like drivers who get their salaries entirely in cash, who actively use bank accounts. How are they meant to get through the next couple of days?
Well, I think things will streamline. See, today 2,000 rupee notes have been already rolled out. Tomorrow or by tomorrow evening, I hear that 500 rupee notes also will be out. Today it was only 2,000 rupee notes. So with both the currencies coming out and with more and more stocks being supplied to banks all over India, right, I'm sure that we'll be able to tide over the problems.
Well, Vishal, there's been a lot been said about how this is good for our economy. Is this short period of pain actually going to turn into something that's good for the economy over a period of time? As investors, is this something that we should put up with because it's going to work out in the long period?
It is. It absolutely is. I think it is a very bold move, not something a lot of us were prepared for, but has been suggested and written for a long time that this is the way to go, etc. So it's good to see the government actually making this happen. It is going to be painful for a few weeks, but it does many things. And of course, there are economic impacts which we can talk about, but there's also the issue around counterfeiting and tax and laundering and all of these. So there are not just economic benefit, but there's a social benefit as well, which is very, very large. And we have to therefore look at the entire benefit holistically and then say, yes, we are going through a bit of a challenge, but it's a few weeks. So like Pankaj said, once you have currency coming back, it may force us to choose these new methods of payment like electronic wallets and things like that. But
so a transitionary phase where everybody is going to have to start using electronic payments.
But cash is coming back as well. So I think one of the questions that that people were asking was, if the idea is to curb black money, why are you introducing 2,000 rupee notes and 500 rupee notes? And I'm told 1,000 rupee note is going to come back as well. Because the reality is we may not be as ready to completely move to a cashless economy. So it allows us some time to transition, and then the recognition is that you still need a fair amount of cash in the economy today.
All right, we're going to take some questions, of course, and we have with us Vikas Kimani, who joins us now on the show, who will also answer some more questions. We have audience members with questions. Go ahead, Mr. Desai. What's your question?
Sir, thank you, for giving this opportunity. First of all, very first question is our Prime Minister authorized to say that 500 and 1,000 rupee notes are not valid from 12 midnight from today? Actually, all these notes are signed by Reserve Bank Governor. So how come a Prime Minister comes on a TV and says that after 4 hours this currency will not be valid? Is he authorized by Constitution? I am told that it is not. He is not authorized.
He made only the announcement. I think the notification was still signed by the Reserve Bank.
But I mean, technically, Pankaj, they're part of a team, right?
Yeah.
So there is, it would have been an entire large team of people who were working together.
Of course, they have been
the
working for
announcement
months
came
together.
from one person.
Yes. And as the head of the state, as the head of the country, it is he who has made the announcement in his own amicable way and expressing and telling people that, look, there will be difficulties, bear with us. And probably what he didn't say was that this is like a labor pain, but wait for the baby to arrive.
One second, I want to bring in Dhirendra Kumar. Dhirendra, there was a fair amount of complaining that happened, and there's a lot of, the opposition has come out today saying there should have been a period of notice given to Indians to prepare for the change. But was the element of surprise part of the plan? Would the plan have worked if it was not a surprise to the entire country?
Absolutely. The whole plan would have, this whole demonetization scheme will be completely nullified if you give a notice that effective 1st of January 2017, these currencies will be worthless, or they will be demonetized, or they'll not. So the surprise was very important. I think we must understand and appreciate. A lot of people are complaining, and the complaint is genuine. A lot of the laborers who will be getting their 500 rupees, they will be scared of going to the bank. They will not be able to fill up the form. They will not have an authentication document, and they will have to necessarily bank on getting 100 rupee note from here on. So I fully understand, and that I think is the unintended consequence of such a big move being taken. But I think we should appreciate that, and a lot of people are also saying that this will not solve the problem at the basic level. But that is not the point. I think this is a huge shift from in creating or driving the market to understand that you better behave. You have to pay taxes. There are two sets of people in this country: one who actually pay the taxes, and the other set of affluent people who don't. And this is telling and their life was easy. Their life was not difficult. This has made their life difficult, and in the process, lot of very poor people will suffer. But their suffering is, manageable. I don't think anybody is running away or their money is going to get wasted.
That is true. There is definitely going to be suffering, and we've noticed, in fact, our reporters have noticed a lot of the suffering is happening outside of hospitals, outside of pharmacies, where people have travelled from smaller cities to the big cities for treatment. They've carried cash that they can no longer use, and there's no access to fresh money right now. You have a question, ma'am? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was quite a shock when we heard the Prime Minister announce making this news at 8 o'clock in the night, just 4 hours. And
yes.
This is it, sort of. So people like us, we are senior citizens. The next day, for 2 days, the ATMs were closed. Mm-hmm. The bank was closed the next day also. So today when we rushed to the bank, I personally didn't go because I phoned first. And the people from my bank said, ma'am, please don't come, don't hurry. There's a huge big queue right from 8 o'clock in the morning, and the bank has finished, they don't even have the cash to give to the people, yes. Sort of. So take it easy, come tomorrow, day after, don't rush, sort of. So, and also when we go tomorrow or day after, only 2,000 or 4,000 we can take out. So you expect us to go to the bank, run to the bank every day for 4,000 rupees just to get 4,000 rupees. Daily we have to go to the bank. I mean, it's not fair. No.
So actually there's a lot of confusion here. I can change 4,000 rupees at a time, but I can draw 10,000 at a time.
You can from your bank account you can write a bearer check and draw 10,000 rupees. On the next day you can draw another 10,000 rupees because the limit is 20,000 rupees in a week.
Just so Vishal also, I'm going to come to Vikas here. The point is that while we are, we are moving towards a system where people are using checks and people are using debit cards, the problem that we faced and the questions that we've received is largely from senior citizens who say that they're not comfortable with online payments. They're not as comfortable as the younger people right now using their apps to buy things online, and having to get them to travel to the bank and back for every small detail right now is going to be painful. Is there a word of advice here for senior citizens who are watching and those who are, for senior citizens who are watching and those who are part of the audience right now? What should they be doing?
I think, if I may, and there's no easy solution to this, but I think one must appreciate all the effort that everyone in the system seems to be making, including the fact that the government has said, the RBI has said that we'll review the limits that we've imposed in due course. Because I guess what someone's trying to do at the back end is to make sure there's enough supply of currency to allow everyone to draw it out. So on day one, which is today, when we open up the system again with the new currency, if we did not have the limit, then you can imagine the first one who goes to the counter just draws it out and then lesser people get it. So you're trying to distribute it over a few days. As the supply comes in, I think things will ease out. Now, till that time, I think if there's any way you can limit your use of currency, and if there's any other way to make a payment, including checks, and the reality is with the check and the Section 138, which is heavily imposed, the fact is the acceptance of just the humble check is still larger today than it was maybe a few years back when people would worry about it being bounced, etc. They used to insist on a demand draft. Now they no longer do. So, and you will find that more and more people are accepting and making some accommodations here and there because the intent is very genuine. So I would say that yes, we have to be patient. In the interim, if there's anything we can do to limit our currency usage, we should do that. If there's any way you can try and get on to the electronic payment system, we should try and do that, and also educate, because a lot of this is also about misinformation or partial information, like the belief that I can only draw 2,000. No, you can actually up to 20,000 a week. So that's 40,000 rupees a month straight away. So it's not a small amount of money in that sense.
Right. So just to help our audience understand the rules right now, when you go to the bank to change money, so if you have cash in hand and you want to change it to the new currency notes, you can do so 4,000 rupees at a time. You can draw 2,000 rupees per day from your ATM. You can draw 10,000 rupees per day from your bank account, and a total of 25 per fortnight, 25,000 rupees per 15 days. Those are the rules right now. And like Vishal pointed out, the RBI has promised us that in a week or so, those limits will be revised based on the currency availability that's in the market. But, just a real world piece of advice a lot of times, because we live in the same neighborhood and we interact with the same shopkeepers, just an IOU note of, I'll pay you when the money comes into the system, because everybody is facing this problem at this point. You have a question, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the general consensus seems to be in favor of this move, and I think we have to congratulate the Prime Minister for this very bold move. Now, I think the main issue was to curb black money and maybe get rid of fake notes that's been accumulating. Now, the question is, now that you're coming out with new currency notes of 2,500, don't you think it is going to be easy to accumulate this black money again, accumulate this currency again as black money? Maybe in 5 years from now, you're going to face the same problem. How are you going to stop that?
Actually, this has been a huge point of debate, and I'm going to bring in all of our panelists here, because I'll come to you first. Everybody says that, yes, it's a slightly painful, like you said, the baby will be born. What is going to stop this baby from getting corrupted? Why won't the 2,000 rupee notes start turning into packs that get stacked in people's homes?
I think everything should be seen in totality, what this government is trying to do. Right from the time they came, I think one thing is very, very clear, that they are taking number of steps against the black money. Right from the time they came. And also, there are lots of steps being planned going forward to make sure that how this parallel black economy comes into the system. No one move will make sure that black money gets eliminated. I mean, they opened Jan Dhan Yojana, so that people can come to the bank rather than cash economy. Then they are right now trying to remove all the black money hoarded in form of cash. They are making real estate transactions difficult by the day. There are lots of, I don't want to go into detail, but there are lots of rules which have come out where incrementally transacting real estate in cash has become difficult.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have next year onwards GST is coming through. That will be again huge, detriment to trade in cash. We have seen gold, you can't buy more than 2 lakhs without giving permanent account number details. So they are one by one, there are lots of steps they are making. Having said that, no economy, including United States, have been able to eliminate black money completely. That will never happen. But today, I mean, there are various estimates. I mean, whether it is an equal amount of parallel economy, but if they can eliminate large part of it, I think, you know, we will be able to get rid of this menace which has been going on for like many decades. And I think, contrary to perception, I think this helps all of us, common men, a lot.
So you're saying this particular move is just one brick in the larger wall against black money.
And I want to also make one point that a lot of people are saying, why are you introducing 2,000 rupees again? But let's also understand, in the today's value of rupee in the inflationary environment, you can't keep carrying lots of money, and so you have to also have some value of money stored in notes, where you have to have a large denomination where you can also carry and transact in a meaningful manner. I mean, today we all know that in 2,000 rupees what all we can buy. So if you have to go out traveling somewhere, you need to carry some reason. So it should not be bulky also. So I think, you know,
let me bring in Dhirendra here. Dhirendra, you know, enough has been said about the real estate market, and I've asked you this question several times over the last couple of days. We know that gold and real estate, and gold now has a cap on it, real estate has sort of been a funnel for black money in this in the country. What impact, from an investment point of view, do you think this is going to have on the prices of real estate, on the real estate market in general?
No, the immediate impact is that real estate will freeze. We will not see any transaction, and a lot of transactions which was in between is already frozen. People don't know what to do about it, because, you know, if somebody sold his house back, sold his house a week ago, he would have got, you know, 1 crore of rupees in cash and another 50 lakh rupees in check, and that this is a very optimistic scenario. I don't think he will be able to do anything about that crore of rupees. He'll be able to do a little bit about it, but nothing beyond that. So, you know, they'll just be sitting on it definitely turns into a piece of paper. The transactions in between, they actually go for a toss. I think, you know, we are just looking at the impact of the action in immediate terms. I don't think that is the whole story. The whole story is that today the natural way of doing business is that you can have a normal life. Normal way of doing things is that you can evade the tax net completely, and if at all you don't have to, you should not, then have a little bit of notional legal legitimate activity, and rest of it will be fine. And real estate was the only outlet which was providing an avenue to park this money, which was actually, you know, it was not illegal money, but, you know, a lot of it is business income on which tax has not been paid, and that gets deployed easily, and this gets fixed completely. And today, now buying real estate will become a business decision. So far it was not, because the moment it was a tax evaded money, you looked at it for a variety of reasons, but for return on investment. Now people will look at it that here is my capital, I am putting this money, I get a 0.5% rental yield, and I don't know when it will, and the asset depreciates over time, because houses depreciate and land value appreciates, hopefully. So what do I do with it? And this is going to have an impact. The other thing is that, you know, all the corrupt officials who would have acquired real estate, or properties over time, or real estate, the decline in value, the feel poor factor, you know, we talk of the wealth effect. The lack of liquidity, inability to sell, and the worth going down, this will become a buyer's market. People will start valuing assets.
So you'll actually start buying real estate for the actual value of the home. Mr. Karyali, I want to pick up what Dhirendra said. A lot of the black money is not exactly black money, but it is accountancy loopholes where people don't declare all of their business income. That's not cash. And that's not always locked up in a tijori or under a mattress. So this particular solution doesn't solve that problem, does it?
No, but then, you know, there are various steps, as he rightly explained. There are various steps that have been taken. The first was the Jan Dhan Yojana, where people came and deposited the money. Second was the IDA scheme, the income declaration scheme, where one could declare the undisclosed income. Okay, so there people went and declared. So, see, as a businessman, if you have the cash, you are not going to be sitting on a pile of cash.
Right.
It is the other classes, other than the businessmen. Okay, and I don't want to spell it out who, but I'm sure people are.
Feel free to spell it out.
Well,
right before the election, so you can say it.
It is the politicians and the bureaucrats, you know, who are sitting on piles of money. So, you know, if they are, and that is stacked money. I name it as stacked money. And that stack money is something which is not coming in the circulation, and that is what, this is the way the stack money will come out,
it will be forced
or
out,
it will be just go out of circulation.
Okay, you have a question on the back. Go ahead.
Yes. Since the topic of real estate was going on, I would like to ask that I read in many articles and newspapers that prices of real estate will fall down. But can anybody from our panelists tell me that how much it will fall? Or is there any prediction we can make about it? Or in near future, what is the assurance that it won't rise?
Vishal, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, see, there's
if any of us could tell you that, we'd all be very, very rich. I don't think anybody can, carefully predict how much is going to fall.
I think no one can predict that, but I think the question really is that at what level of real estate value does it make sense? And when I say that it makes sense, when people who are earning can afford to live in it, rather than just, or if you are buying it as an investment, it makes a reasonable return for your investment. Now, if none of these things are true, you have to believe that it is overvalued. Why is it overvalued? Because there is maybe all of this type of money which is chasing it and repricing it to a level which is not sustainable. So that's the general belief. Now, how much overvalue? Every estimate is from 0 to 50%, I would guess, which is there, but you can't really pinpoint.
Vikas?
So I think clearly we have to understand a lot of corruption money, especially for the class which he mentioned, political and bureaucrats, that goes into real estate, especially in lands, because that's the only way to hide cash, right? And I think, and that inflates the price. So if that money only goes out, so through various corruption eradication moves and these kind of moves, that money is no more available. So if you don't have any money available, then you can't buy land anymore. So the demand of that particular product goes down, and that goes in as a raw material into building buildings and flats and all those things. So eventually that price will also have come down. Now, it's again demand supply situation, but there are various estimates floating around between 20 to 30%.
One of the arguments has been, since we've been hearing about the fact that the demand in the real estate sector has been weak or close to nothing for the last 2 years, why haven't the prices come down as much as they would have in any other sector? And the truth is, because there is a lot of corrupt money holding up that sector and inflating it so that they don't need to drop the prices. I know that Dhirendra has a very, very strong view on how much real estate will fall. Dhirendra, in reaction to your analysis, what is your estimate? How much of a drop or a crash are you expecting in the real estate residential prices at least?
No, I'll tell you. I will tell you the basis of my estimate. The basis of my estimate is that things will become realistic. I think the next step will be to get after those Benami properties held by people who have the holding power because it did not cost them. They did not earn that money by working very hard. So and that will actually nudge the supply. That will actually create the decline in value. But let me tell you the formula for arriving at the realistic price of a value. I would think that a house should be generally yielding anywhere between 4 to 6%. And if you really fall in love with the house and you like it, then you can well pay some premium. So, assuming that a realistic house should be yielding 4%, which means that the price of the house should be such that 4% annual return divided by 12 should be the rent that you can derive from that. The premium for your liking of that house and the locality can actually reduce it by another 1%. And hope that the appreciation in the house value will happen over time with inflation. And that I'm confident that a house bought at this kind of valuation. So if you're looking at 4% house, buying a house which will yield 4% rental income, I think most of the houses have to, in Delhi, I can say that they have to come down in value by nearly 50%.
50% crash in the real estate market will be doomed for.
Bombay will be even more.
But nobody's predicting that there will actually be that much of a cut in the real estate market. The general consensus is that there will be some pressure on prices in general. Ma'am, you have a question. Go ahead.
Okay. I feel that the Prime Minister has done something very bold by making this sort of a very big surprise factor, and there'll be a lot of black money which is mopped up. But it's not the end of the story. He could have also tried maybe taking a hit at the political parties and their funding, which is so, everything is below the table and nothing is on paper. It should be electoral reforms must be compulsory. And they should make it more transparent how much the parties get from whom, how they spend it, how much they spend and on what. All this is something which will wipe out a lot of black money. And this is something I feel that the political parties themselves are avoiding for their own benefit. I mean, a bold Prime Minister should face this question, which has been hanging fire since a long time.
Anybody? They don't even come under RTI.
They don't come under RTI.
In spite Supreme Court telling them, you have this 6-party national party have to be under RTI. They are not agreeing to that.
Right. So, yes, go ahead.
I want to add one more question into this. See, basically, what I feel is that all these political parties, they are Gangotri of black money, because they are allowed to accept up to 20,000 per person in cash. So why don't they themselves allowed to accept all the amount in check? Just now you said that they are having so many options for online. Why they themselves don't allow for all these things? If you can just elaborate, because you are tax experts, Mr. Gadiali sir.
I can only give you a parallel. In the United States, for the presidential election which just got over, you saw yesterday, you can actually, every taxpayer can voluntarily contribute for the to the funds of a presidential election, and that is done through the income tax return. When you file the income tax return, you can just check a box and write the amount that you want to fund it towards it, and either from your refund or from your tax payment, that much amount would get transferred. So that could be one of the ways. From the 1.2 billion population that we have, of course we don't have so many taxpayers. So once again, that would be a hitch. But yes, we can make a small humble beginning with that.
No, but to this question of the fact that while you said that this is just one step in a larger battle that we are fighting, how important is electoral reform in that larger battle?
No, it is very, very important. Electoral reform is very, very important. And if you see yesterday's Arun Jaitley's interview also, in that said that it will also have inconvenience for the political parties. You know, because if you make the availability of cash, black money difficult, it is going to have impact on everyone. But I think again, you know, one has to look at in totality, and there is a sequentiality of it. You know, they are going one after another, and I am sure, like curbing black money is good for all of us, same way I think making electoral reforms and electoral funding available through official chains also would be good for political parties. But the thing is that somebody has to take that lead and get it done. And I think fortunately we have a very, very bold and gutsy Prime Minister who has begun this journey. Now we can all ask that question, why he has not done? I am sure it is there on the agenda, but timing and pace and sequence, we have to, you know, leave it to him. But I personally believe that, you know, if he stays in this country for another, 10 years, we will have all those things behind us, because his vision is to bring everything, in transparent manner, whether it is governance, be it of political party or bureaucracy or anybody else.
Vishal?
Can we ask the Prime Minister to spell out a little program over the next 5-10 years so we know what's coming?
Ma'am, the only thing is that these kind of things are, you see, you also live in a democratic environment, you live in a political environment. You can't spell out a lot of things which you want to do. I mean, that is true for a businessman, that is true for a government, even if they are taking tough decisions. Like somebody said that, why didn't he announce this before? If you give notice, so you can't give notice of a lot of things, you just got to do it. Otherwise, all the vested interests will gang against you and, not let you do that thing.
But, Vishal, the intention of removing black money or bringing in the money that's been parked overseas has been constantly reiterated by the Prime Minister and the government. Now, the method in which they're going to do it, like Vikas pointed out, or the timing or the timeline was possibly something that should be an element of surprise.
Just adding on to that, and I think the concern that you shared, I think by taking out cash from the economy, which is the process we are going through right now, it does impact the political and the electoral process in a very significant way. So it's not a small step in squeezing out all of these elements. And if we look at what are the storehouses of illegitimate money, cash is one, gold is another one, real estate is another one. People say that, overseas is another one. So there are many forms of storing, this value. You attacked one of them. And that actually is in one sense, the most frequently used in the electoral process. So one would say, actually, it's a direct attack on that side. Who's to say what's coming on real estate? Of course, there are many stories or many theories about what could happen, gold, overseas. We must recognize that many of these will take a fair amount of planning and infrastructure. And just for this, for example, we just heard about the fact that, first you had to make sure people could afford and get a bank account. So that was the Jan Dhan. You had a fair chance to declare, which was the scheme. You also have a very robust parallel infrastructure to take money electronic, which is the entire UPI infrastructure, IMPS, etc., where I can transfer money to anyone at a click of a button. It is very, very simple. All of these are now being made available. So yes, it's a transition. But parallelly, there are surveillance systems getting built, which should make that life for someone who's continuing to do this more and more difficult, is what one would believe. Of course, the details is something I'm sure the people who are working on it will know further.
And mind you, no government in independent India's history has taken so many planned, concerted effort to curb black money. I mean, in 2.5 years' time, they have taken a number of steps to. So their intention is very clear, path is very clear. Now we'll have to leave a lot of things to their wisdom to how they want to execute, because they also are fairly sensible guys, I would be.
Yeah, one second. You don't have a mic. Don't talk about it. I also want to point out to our audience that the focus of this show is investment. So if you have any questions about investments, अगर investment के बारे में कोई question है इस चीज को लेके तो आप पूछ सकते हो. You had an observation to make.
No, I just had an observation to make. That I've been reading the papers, even now some people made the statement that this particular scheme has caused some sort of inconvenience and all that. Frankly, if you ask me, my personal opinion, I think this is the best thing ever to happen to this country, and I'm more than glad that Mr. Modi has done it. That is one. Second thing, this could not have been done by a prior announcement of the whole thing, and the manner in which it was done, the fact that in a country like India, you kept such a thing secret. And I'm sure this planning did not happen yesterday. It must have been in the making maybe for a couple of months. Yes. To keep it so secret in the country where so many people would have been involved is something, I think, an amazing exercise. Third thing, people say, the salaried class is very badly affected. I don't personally think so. I think whose salaried people are affected only to the extent that when they may not have a couple of 100 rupees to go and buy certain things, which they can tell the dukandar, kal paisa dega, and everybody understand the whole thing. Right. If I did buy something from the local restaurant fellow yesterday and told him, 1,000 rupees le lo, obviously he wouldn't accept. Right. But they know us because we are a known commodity in the areas that we all stay.
Do you have a specific question though for our panel?
No, I have no specific one. I just want to say that this is an excellent scheme. If there is some problem that we are all having, we will suffer it very gladly. And this is the first day since the whole thing in economy has opened. To complain about it so quickly, I think would be rather unfair. That's all.
I have a quick question for our panel, since we are talking about investments and we're all retail investors here. Everybody has, some amount of money in a fixed deposit or in a stock or in a mutual fund. And we saw the market react quite drastically the next morning. Now, we'll never be able to tell whether that was in reaction to the US elections or in reaction to this particular announcement. But over the long term, and, Vikas, I'll start with you. What impact will this have on our investments, on my mutual funds, on my stock investments? What sort of an impact will this have?
Initially, there was expectation. A lot of people felt that markets will go down, right? But I think if you see structurally, it has been seen, it is a very, very big positive. With this, India will save 50 to 60 billion, or depending on various estimates, of black money, and that money can be reinvested into many purposes, either to consolidate fiscal deficit or recapitalize from the banks or infrastructure build out. That is one. Secondly, it has given a very, very clear message to people at large that efficiencies are coming in the system, black money is getting out, and that potentially will leave open a role for upgrade of country's rating. So you can go on and on. I mean,
now, if we're talking about crores and crores of rupees that's in cash that now suddenly becomes useless, isn't that money that is lost though to the country?
That is not lost to the country. That money comes into kitty of the government, and government can use that money for productive purposes, as compared to where it was staked. So that was either they can reduce for a fiscal deficit or they can invest. So they can invest that much money. So that money suddenly becomes back for productive purpose. So that money is not going anywhere. It is there in the economy. Government brings back to the economy. And right now from cash economy to mainstream economy. So that will boost GDP growth of the country. That will bring down inflation. That will improve the rating of the country. That will, going forward with minor blip of couple of quarters, improve the corporate earnings. So I think overall it has created a great macro environment for the country.
Vishal, there was also some analysis saying that with all of this money coming into the formal banking system, because it was not in the banks. So now with the banks now gaining this money, then the increased liquidity, there's a chance that it will hasten the process of reducing interest rates. So we'll actually see our home loan rates come down faster than they would have before this move happened. Is that true?
So yeah, that's one of the possibilities, because of course it depends on how much of this money comes in. And because the reality is, if this money comes in and it was ill-gotten, then there's a penalty which is coming. And therefore, we've heard stories about people burning this cash. Now, if it is getting burnt, it never comes in.
Which is my point. If a lot of it gets burnt, then it's not coming into the system. But that the portion of it that does come into the formal system.
So whatever doesn't come in, the government just writes off. That's a liability that doesn't exist. So that's very good. Whatever comes in has the immediate impact of increasing liquidity. But then we have to keep in mind, this money is not permanent. People will draw it back. Now, it's expected that while you draw it back, you may not draw the full amount, right? So we have to keep in mind that 1,500 rupees are going in. You will be able to get new 2,500 and then eventually another new 1,000 rupee note. So it will come back to you. What's expected is what you take back is not going to be as much. So it will leave the banking system with more liquidity, which means that from an interest rate standpoint, you should have some benign effect. You may not have as much of a pressure on inflation. It may actually have a modest benefit on the inflation side. But we also have to watch out, I would think, if I can just add to, what could be a concern.
Right.
Now, what could be a concern is that, if you look at the economic machinery today, and a large part of that machinery using cash is almost like oil or grease in a machinery, right? And you're suddenly pulling it out. It is bound to slow down the machine. Now, when it slows down the machine, economic output is reduced for some time till you actually give the oil back to the machine. Now, how much of that impact, do we have to absorb? When do we get the machine back in the same level, etc.? Is something we have to.
For example, a lot of this, the shopkeepers in Dadar told us business was down more than 50% yesterday and down even further today, because people just don't have cash in their hands to spend. So that has to actually come back to normal. Mr. Karyali, we have a question that has come in on our Twitter handle, which basically about foreigners who are traveling in India right now, who are on holiday, who are traveling for whatever reason, who now are stuck with Indian money that they cannot use and foreign currency that they cannot change. So what advice do you have for anyone who's traveling at this point?
No, foreign money they will be able to change, because
no, but until the exchanges get the fresh currency of the 2,000 and the 500 rupee notes,
so the limitation, the limitation would be there. But I think most foreigners who are traveling, they are in the habit of using credit cards, so they can always use alternative means, as I said earlier.
All right, so use your credit cards till such time as you do get access to Indian currency, and in the meantime, try and make do with what you have at this point. It's a period of adjustment and discomfort that we have to get through. Dhirendra, I have a question for you. From our larger plans, any sort of investments that we have made right now, gold being the outlier, and we'll have a conversation about the prices of gold. But should we relook at any portion of our investment plans because of this move?
No, I think, if you are on to any investment plan, I think one should start appreciating the value of the investments that we have been talking about for all these years. Look at the charm of this investment. You put your money methodically, you benefit from all the madness in the market because you are on to, averaging your investment. And then all the return that you get for holding it for 1 year is completely tax-free. And you become a proud citizen that you have done everything legitimately. I'm just comparing the situation that if I was, if I'm an investor if I'm an investor and if I was running a business, I had two options: pay 30% tax and be left with 70 rupees, or not pay tax and have 100 rupees. And if I was earning that 100 rupee, I will buy a house or I will buy a piece of land. And that land has got stuck. And here, if I invested my 70 rupees, the legitimacy, having a sound sleep, having a completely tax-free income without the hassle of managing and then this government doing all these things, actually it creates a great case for all the organized businesses, diversified portfolio. So never get derailed. In fact, it's just a reminder that if you are on to a great investment plan, never stop it. In fact, invest as much more as you can as this is rising India.
The fundamental realization here, of course, is it's a great moment to be a salaried Indian. It's possibly, for a very long time, one of the best moments to be a salaried Indian, where everything for you is TDS. It comes into your bank account. Everything is, electronically going into your investments, into your loans, into all of your payments. So this is vindication for those of us who have salaries, who've paid our taxes, who've filed our taxes. This is when the country turns around and acknowledges the good work that you have been doing. You're actually in a very good position. The only thing that you have to worry about is getting through the next maybe day or so until you're able to access money from your ATM or your bank account. So the minimum pain at this point is to the salaried class of Indians. You have a question? So, yes, go ahead.
मेरा ये सवाल है कि 2000 का जो नोट आया, जो करेंसी आया, उसका इफेक्ट फॉरेन करेंसी मार्केट में होगा, और दूसरा मेरा जीडीपी का क्या ग्रोथ रहेगा, जो मोदी गवर्नमेंट का आगे का जो 5 साल, जो 2-3 साल बचे हैं, शायद आगे भी हो गए या नहीं, वो तो पब्लिक के ऊपर है. लेकिन मेरा ये एक सवाल था कि जीडीपी ग्रोथ क्या रहेगा आगे, ये करेंसी का कुछ इफेक्ट होगा, मतलब अभी जो चेंज किया है, शायद आपको लगता है ऐसा?
That's a good point. We've had a lot of... Dhirendra just said this is a great time to be an investor because it's rising India. Will there be a direct impact? You said corporate earnings, you said it'll impact the economy. What sort of a measure of impact are you expecting?
So I think, clearly with this lot of parallel economy, which was not getting accounted into the mainstream economy, with a lot of money coming into mainstream economy, you will start seeing impact of that. So, and with GST coming in, it will get more compounded. So our estimate is there, this year might be anywhere between 7.5% to 8%. But, if you look out a year down the line or 2 years down the line, India should grow anywhere between 8 to 9%, which is a lot of growth, compared to any other nation in the world.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.